If you've ever wondered how much Airbnb hosts actually make, here's your answer. I'm breaking down all of the income, the expenses, the profit for both of my Airbnbs for the month of May, plus answering some common questions I get about finances. A few disclaimers. This is just my experience as a host of 2 years with 2 very average, normal Airbnbs with mortgages to pay off. Now, I'm just gonna be breaking down the cash flow of each place for the month of May. I'm not factoring in equity or appreciation from my mortgage getting paid down because appreciation and equity are long-term financial benefits. It's not really money I can use like right now to pay my bills. So I'm just focusing on cash flow, what's coming in and out in the here and now. And B, I'm not an accountant. I'm just a girl trying to share the realities of how much it costs me to run my 2 Airbnbs each month and how much profit I make from them. But like, let's just keep in mind, I'm not a financial guru. Okay, with all that aside, let's get into it. For Airbnb number 1, it's a 2-bed, 2-bath townhouse, sleeps 4 guests. For the whole month of May, we had 4 bookings total and only 3 open nights because they were kind of longer bookings. And all of these bookings came from Airbnb. We didn't have a single Vrbo booking at that place in the month of May. And in total, we got $4,178.42 from all of these bookings. I do want to talk about how the Airbnb has been performing overall and compare these numbers to May of last year's numbers. But first, let's just keep diving into the expenses. This month, we actually had no additional expenses outside of our normal bills, which is honestly wild to me. Like, that never happens. But for all of our bills, which includes like the mortgage, insurance, utilities, HOA, things like that, we spent $2,338.01. So if you subtract those expenses from our booking income, we had a total profit of $1,840.41 in just cash flow. Now, I do clean the Airbnbs myself most of the time, and I did clean for all 4 of these bookings. So I do count the cleaning fee money in that total amount. Next, I wanted to compare how much we got in bookings in May of last year versus this year. So for May of last year, we got $4,786 in bookings, which is about $600 more than May of this year, even though we only had 3 open nights this month. The reason for that is we've had to slightly lower our nightly rate compared to last year's prices. Ever since August, which is when the slow season begins for my Airbnbs, this Airbnb just hasn't been performing that well. It's pretty much just been breaking even or even slightly losing money some months, even though we redid the bedrooms and we got new photos taken. It's just still not been doing that great. This is actually the first month in a while that we've done more than just break even. So just to keep it real with you, I've heard that same sentiment from a lot of Airbnb hosts recently in like the Facebook groups that I'm a part of. I think it's like an economy thing. I think there's several factors involved, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I have been kind of torn between riding it out to see if it trends back into a higher nightly rate territory, or if I should just turn it into a long-term rental. There is so much work involved in keeping it in Airbnb, and if I'm just gonna be breaking even, I'd rather have it be a long-term rental and be much more hands-off and have way less work. But anyway, let's move on to Airbnb number 2. So this Airbnb is a 3-bed, 2.5-bath single family home, and it's consistently been performing really well. Even in the off season, it's just having like a really good year, which doesn't make sense to me because it's right up the street from the other one and they have very similar amenities, but I digress. So in May, we had 7 bookings total, and all of them were from Airbnb again, none from Vrbo. And we had 6 open unbooked nights. Between those 7 bookings and all of their cleaning fees, we brought in $5,790.80, which is up nearly $1,500 from May of last year, which is crazy. For our expenses, we did have a few small things come up this month, but just for our regular bills, like the mortgage, insurance, whatever, we spent $1,988.33. We did purchase this house when the interest rate was like 3-point-something%, and I am so grateful for that. It definitely makes earning a profit with Airbnb so much more doable, and now I feel like I can never sell this house. We spent an additional $39.60 on miscellaneous small stuff like cleaning supplies, and I had to hire a cleaner 2 times to clean when I couldn't clean myself, and I pay the cleaner $160 per clean, and I tipped her $15 for one of the cleans because she helped me out in kind of a last-minute pinch. Lastly, we also chose to refund a guest $100. When they checked in, the internet was down. It was down for everybody in the neighborhood. It was just like an outage thing, and it took a really long time for it to come back up. It took like 6-7 hours or something like that, but because the internet went down, it kind of triggered our front door lock, the battery alarm, to go off, and so the alarm was going off on that. They needed to replace the batteries. It was just kind of a hassle. We offered to come replace them for them, but they just wanted to do it themselves. But anyway, it was just kind of like a gesture to be like, sorry, this is a really inconvenient first impression of your stay, but they didn't ask for the money. So anyway, with all of those expenses, that totals up to $2,462.93, which if you subtract that from our bookings, we made a cash flow profit of $3,327.87, which is a lot. And I'm so grateful for that. May, June, and July are the biggest, most profitable months for my Airbnb Airbnbs typically. So that number is definitely higher than what it is usually like year round. I am a little bit nervous because the house directly across the street just turned into an Airbnb, and I do worry how that's going to affect our bookings because their house is a little bit nicer, a little more updated. It has an extra bedroom, but I'm interested to see how that plays out. All my properties have their own accounts and debit cards, so I can easily keep track of the profit and loss for each place. Relay is an online business banking and money management platform that's great for small businesses like mine that easily want to keep track of their finances. They have a starter plan which has no hidden fees and is great for somebody like me who has a few properties but still manages everything myself. This starter plan allows you to open up to 20 checking accounts and 50 Visa debit cards, which is perfect because it makes it easy to analyze the cash flow of each property and keep their expenses separate. There are no hidden fees, no overdraft fees, and no minimum balance required, which I love because even the cost of running a small Airbnb business like mine can add up pretty quickly. If you're interested in checking out Relay, I will have their link in my description below. Next, I want to answer some financial related questions just while we're having a chat and on the topic. By far, my most asked question is, how do I make money? And do I pay myself from the Airbnbs? So to answer that, I don't keep any of the money personally that we make from the Airbnbs. Like I don't pay myself every month money from that, even the cleaning fee money. I keep all of that in each account for each house. And I use that money to pay for upgrades and repairs and anything that comes up at each house. Ideally, the plan is to be able to start using that money to pay down the mortgage, but for now, we still have too many little projects to tackle. I personally make my money from content creation. I started making money from the content I was posting about Airbnb in July of last year. 75% of my content is about the Airbnbs, and the other 25% is just whatever I feel like posting about my personal life, about my interests. I get paid from the views on my videos from Facebook Reels, YouTube, TikTok, and I also get some brand deals. I'm actually debating making a whole separate video on this topic, so let me know if you have any specific juicy questions related to that. Question 2, who sets the prices for the rentals and the cleaning fees? Airbnb or you? We do. The hosts do. As the host, you have autonomy over what you're charging for your cleaning fee and for your nightly rate. Airbnb does have some pricing tools to kind of help you figure out what maybe would be like a good nightly rate to charge if you have absolutely no idea, but I find that it's not super accurate. They tend to be on the low side of what you can be charging. We use a software called Price Labs to set our pricing for us just because it's like the most easy hands-off thing that we could find. It's a software that automatically looks at supply and demand in your area, and it changes the nightly rate automatically for you depending on that. So it automatically increases our prices in the busy season, when there's a holiday, if there's a big event in town. Question 3, how are we able to actually buy all of our properties? What was the financing situation like? I haven't actually mentioned this yet in this video, so unless you already follow me, you might not know that we actually own 3 properties. So the 2 Airbnbs I talked about in the video, and we also own 1 long-term rental. But honestly, the answer to this is kind of boring. We just used our savings for the down payments for each house. We didn't do any sort of HELOC or loan against like each of our houses to be able to afford the next one. We just saved our money. I will say all 3 of our properties are $300,000 and under. So it's not like we're talking about an $800,000, $500,000 house that we need a huge down payment for. Like this is still a mind-blowing amount of money, but like, I don't know if that even makes sense. We've always really tried to live below our means and literally put all of our money into these houses. There's so much stuff I want to buy just consumerism wise for me, or like travel more, go on more vacations, but we choose to save the money for these down payments. We drive older cars that are paid off. We had roommates for a time. We lived between the 2 Airbnbs, and if both were booked, we camped out of our car. We try not to go out to eat. I buy a lot of stuff secondhand. We've just made a lot of sacrifices to save this money, which isn't like the juiciest answer. I will also note that something I don't know if a lot of people realize is the debt of each mortgage doesn't necessarily like count against us when we're trying to get financing for the next place, as long as we're able to prove that we're covering the mortgage by Airbnb or from our long-term tenant. So our debt to income ratio is good, which is a huge piece of what a lender is looking at. There's a lot of other factors. I think that we bought our 3rd place too soon, and I think we rushed into it, and I do have a lot of regrets when it comes to the long-term rental. There's nothing we can do about it now, but I think that we were just kind of like on a roll. The other 2 places were doing so good on Airbnb, and we were like, before we have kids, let's just like buy the next place and really sacrifice and do that, which hopefully will all work out in the end, but I would just save up more than you think you need. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up here because I feel like this is very long. As always, ask me any questions that you have down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything, and I will see you guys in the next video.